Welcome to 20 Minutes of Clarity.
I'm your host, Jason Noble, and with me today is the always insightful Andy Merchant. And in today's episode, we're wrapping up our 4-part series on planning for a comfortable retirement. Now, effective financial management is crucial, but not just a luxury, okay? It is like having a GPS to guide you through the haze of investment options and retirement plans, and we're here to help you turn on those headlights, okay? And so for the final part of the series, we'll focus on 3 key steps to secure a comfortable retirement. First, we'll talk about setting your retirement goals early on in your career. Next, we'll delve into the strategic considerations necessary to implement these goals. And finally, we'll explore the tools that you could use that can help you monitor your progress towards achieving these goals. So we tailored this discussion today not only to conclude our series, but to ensure that you have a practical roadmap by the time that we're done. So let's get that clock ticking and delve right in, Andy. So when we look at that first thing that we're going to talk about, which is setting those goals for your retirement early on in your career, what would be the things that you would want our listeners to take away?
Well, Jason, I love it how you started today's podcast on helping you with your journey, kicking on the headlights, and doing those fun things, because I think it's such an important note for those that are tuning in today are picking up. I mean, you think about what it used to be in the past when you used to have a roadmap. You take a vacation, you're going with your spouse, you're going with your friends, whatever it may be, and you have to pull out that big old clunky, map that took over the whole dashboard, created all this risk, right? And today we've got the efficiencies around Google Maps and some other features that help us get from point A to point B. You don't have to do a lot of planning, is my point, of when you're ready to go, you just type in your coordinates and you get there, right? I say that because the technology that we're going to talk on and some of the strategies that we're going to help people remember to get from point A to point B have definitely kind of moved into the new age of technology. But one thing that's the same is you got to have the goals. You got to know where you're going, how much it costs when you get there. You got to both enjoy it. My wife and I, during one of our exercises, and I'm excited to hear what you and Rachel thought, but, we had kind of a different vision on where our retirement goals were a little bit, right? Which I'm sure is very common for many people that are listening. You may not have the same destination in mind, but you got to do the best at that and find that ground. So I say that because having that conversation about retirement early is so important. Right, Jason? I mean, it's sometimes we sit there and say retirement. And I mean, you and I at our age, retirement's down the path, but retirement makes you feel old. And I don't want that to be the case for our listeners today. Retirement's a journey. Retirement's something you're shooting for, and you got to plan ahead of it. And so having that conversation early is one of the most important things that I think you have to have, because I learned a lot just having a conversation with my wife about our journey. And I'd love to hear a little bit about yours and Rachel's conversation when you had it.
I actually rephrased the word retirement with Rachel to what would our day, our week look like when we're financially independent, like full financial independence, where you go in to do something if you want to. You go into work if you really want to. You don't go there anymore because you need to. And I think that was a really good way to phrase it with Rachel, right? Because to your point, retirement seemed like, now we're like really old and this and that. And that's not necessarily the case. With advancements in healthcare and technology, my clients that are retired, they're doing way more than my clients who were retired 15, 20 years ago. It's just different. And so what does that look like when Rachel and I get there 20 years from now or whatever, when we get to that point? And she goes, how close are we to financial independence? I was like, honey, really close. But that doesn't mean I don't love what I do. And I go, so what do you think I would be doing? She was like, doing what you're doing today. Like, even when you reach that point, I don't see you just hanging up the calculator, so to speak, and just like walking off into the sunset with me, going on trips and stuff. She knows my passion, and this passion is I just happen to live my passion out every day. but I'm one of the few.
Yeah.
I don't. Most people, when they're going into work, they may not have that passion of still doing it. Maybe they're doing it because it provides them a steady income and security to then be able to go do things later on. So, in the conversation, I asked her, what about you? Like, what would you be doing? And she goes, I love the garden, but you can only garden so much. I love to be involved in our church, but there's only so many times you could go to church, and so many study groups you could be a part of. And her and I concluded we would want to be involved in a community at some way, maybe working on a board of a nonprofit or a charity. And that's where I brought up with Rachel, like, hey, I would love for you to make sure that you're listening to our Clear Picture Cares podcast. And she goes, no, I actually do listen. So go figure, right? I didn't even know if Rachel was listening. And she goes, but what I really like is I'm learning more about all the stuff that's going on within our community with these nonprofits. And I go, so if there's one that you listen to and you really like, maybe we start talking to them about being more involved in their nonprofit and charity to start to live the life of what we're looking at for financial independence. That was a really cool suggestion that I had, and she loved it.
Yeah.
But what about the conversation that you and Angie had?
No, I love it too, because, I think for those listening and jumping in, we had a great opportunity to talk about as we were taking a trip this weekend, and it really kind of put it all together. But the thing that you just said that I think is really important to highlight is financial independence is not a number, not a one size fit all, right? It's a tailored number to you. Depending on where you live, what your expectations are, the things that you want to be able to do to define what that financial independence is. I mean, I've got a couple clients, Jason, I'm sure you do, that we were able to build their financial independence solely supported by Social Security. This isn't go out and have a $10 million, little orange bunny that hops on the screen through the Voya commercials and get to your target number that everybody used to have. That gives you a little bit of extra. But I love the fact that financial independence is set by the lifestyle you want, the location you want to be in. And you have to think about that way early in advance, because the last thing you want to do, the last thing we want our clients and those friends that we get to meet along the way to do is say, hey, I'm ready to retire. Well, when and where? Yesterday, and I don't know, right? And then we're just solving, and we're not going to give you the most optimal lifestyle, And so when I'm sitting here, to your point, it's not always about the things you want to do. I can only play so much golf. I don't know how some of these guys that are retired do it. They just go out and play golf every single day. Golf's passion. But I found out this weekend that, my wife loves Lawrence, right? We get to go back. That was our kind of moments when we were enjoying our days as a Jayhawk student. And now we're a Jayhawk alum. But I'm like, why do you want to be here? She's like, well, the kids are going to go here. And so we're kind of looking at and planning around. Well, I'm like, well, that's only during a short period of time in life and all this good stuff. So she's like, I just love it here. So, part of our retirement plan is we want to have some exposure and some commitment and freedom and independence to go to Lawrence and just be there and recharge. So I just think it's important to have the conversation. That's what we learned. I also learned that my wife's okay with the kids staying around the house for a while. I just don't think she wants them to fly the coop yet, but maybe that'll change as they get older. So I'm like, do we have to build a bigger house with a second living quarter, right? Do I have to go build a piece of land that I can have, multiple houses on? Because, knowing her mindset, she wants us to have like a family compound that we don't leave. But
Rachel as well. And I think it's also the ages of our children.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like my son, who's 7, he was like, Daddy, is it okay if I live with you when I get older and I have my wife and kids? And I was like, no.
Yeah,
I set the standard real early on, right?
Yeah.
On that. But my daughter, who's 10, she's like, I want to live near you, kind of like our friends do. Like we have really close friends of ours that have 3 boys, and his twin brother lives less than half a mile away in the same neighborhood with his 2 girls. And so Avery, our daughter, knows this, and she loves like that idea of being near family. Like my mother and father-in-law live 0.76 miles away. Let me ask me how I know, right? But like, they live close. And so my daughter and son, they're used to having family nearby. But that's not going to say that when they go to college and then they start their career that they're going to move back, right? And so having a conversation with Rachel was like, well, we got to make sure that we have the finances to be near them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very interesting comment she made. She was like, to be near them. It wasn't mean like live with them.
Yeah.
But like be near them. Do we be near them 3 months out of the year, 6 months of the year, 12 months out of 24/7? What does that near me look like?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what if our son lives in one area and our daughter lives in the other, right? Do we just move closest to our favorite? I'm kidding. You know, but like
split time
about golf. Golf is on my mind. You mentioned golf earlier, and you can't play it 24/7, but like there's some people in retirement that they definitely go on a daily basis. But what about Scotty Scheffler talking about if my wife goes into labor, I'm not going to go on the final, even if it's the final day. I'm not going to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to be with my wife. I'm going to be there for the match. Like setting a stage. So it was talked about in the morning meeting, right, on that following Monday after he won, and they were like, you know, what kind of commitment is that? It's a phenomenal commitment that golf is part of his life, but golf is not his life, even though he's the number one golf player in the entire world, right? And winning the Masters, just a phenomenal success story. And I said, quite honestly, I was like, well, it worked out really well for him. He won, and he still made the comment, so he gets extreme brownie points at home, and he never got tested on it, right? So he was playing chess while others were playing checkers on the same board. But what I'm getting, what I love about the conversation, Andy, is like we're having these conversations with our spouses. We asked our listeners to do the same. I'd love for people to send back comments. Go to clearpicturefinancial.com, scroll down, enter in your information, but also put in there the conversation that you had with your spouse and what was the takeaways.
Yeah.
And if you're still sitting there with not having that financial clarity, that's why I want you to go through the process that we provide, which is the Clear Picture process. So then, Andy, let's talk about the second item, right? Because we said that this is going to be 3 different things, and we want the deliverables, right? Let's delve into the strategic considerations necessary to implement these goals. What would be those things?
Yeah, no, and implementation is always the most important thing. You know, it's like you can have the goals, we could sit down and help people, but actually helping them implement the plan. And since we've really kickstarted this with a change in mindset from retirement mindset to financial independent mindset, right? It's really about what I wrote down in my notes because I thought it was so important. Is we hope that our clients listen today and avoid the I needs the service at when I retire to I want someone to partner with so that we can grow on this journey or navigate. We want to be that Google Maps to replace the old ways of trotting our plans. We're always updated, right? We know the best route, the most efficient route. We can sometimes, because of the past experiences we've had with other clients that have gone through the similar things or going through similar things as our clients, we can chart out and foresee in some cases, some of the opportunities or the roadblocks ahead. So the implementation needs to be, don't think about being retired, think about implementing with a partner like us today. And that's what's so unique about the Clear Picture Wealth Program is it's not designed to be an asset under management relationship. It's designed to be a partner with you to help you journey through the decisions you have to make to have the most optimal retirement. So I think that's the first thing of implementation, right? That people that are listening and viewing and tuning in today, you just need to understand that you got to change your mindset about how your partners like us work. And I know we're unique, right? We've built this podcast, we built our program we're hearing all over the country from other advisors that we're not using this kind of strategy. So I take a little plug there because for us, retirement is the most common thing, or financial independence is the most common thing that everybody is searching for. It's just the most, they don't know how, right? So implementing that plan is starting there is where I really kind of want to hit the nail on the head for this discussion today.
Well, so Rachel and I took the kids for spring break, and it was going to be it's about a 6-hour drive, right? And so here we are, we're preparing for snacks in the car and all this other stuff for the kids and things to keep them occupied, right? As we go through this 6-hour journey with 2 kids, 10 and 7, right? But then also we have our GPS, we have the map, we have the route that we're going to go. And as we were getting closer to our destination, it kept on giving us options to reroute us due to traffic that was starting to accumulate. And so we had to make it was like a decision. Rachel and I were talking through. It's like, hey, do we do this other route and pay the tolls and everything that's involved in that, or do we stay the course? It says it's going to save us 10 minutes at this point. Is that worth it to us?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We drove a little bit further, and it said, now this new route's going to save us 25 minutes in our journey. And then that became worth it to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to make the course correction, and it got us there on the estimated time. So on the way back, it said it was going to be another 6.5 hours. Okay, on the way back. But on the way back, Florida has 4 lanes of highway on 95. Okay, and those that are in the low country could testament, they could relate to this. Georgia has 3 lanes. South Carolina goes down to 2 on 95. Come on, South Carolina, like get your act together and move it to 3 to 4 lanes. But anyway, because of all that convergence of traffic, there's always this red line getting on 95 as you're going north on the interstate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got these notifications to then course correct and adjust. Okay. Now I was driving the entire time. I gave Rachel this break, like, hey, why don't you just relax and enjoy the journey? Talk with me, this and that, but like, I'm not going to have you drive. So we get very close to home. And just to stop off at the grocery store, because we had no groceries that left at the house. And the grocery store is maybe 10 minutes away. Right? So I get back and she was like, hey, do you want me to take us home now? I'm like, no, I'm going to finish it. I started this, I'm going to finish it. And I go, but besides, they always say like the majority of accidents occur within like a few miles of your home. She was like, great thing for me to know, right? And we're kind of joking. But let me parlay this into retirement planning and having like working with an advisor along the way. The GPS was the advisor giving us course corrections and adjustments that we need to make. But the fact that I shared with Rachel that most accidents happen towards the end of the journey, you got to think getting to retirement is not the end of the journey. Right. But what you're doing is you're getting closer to that financial independence state. And the closer you get to it, the more important it is.
Mm-hmm.
We call that the financial red zone. That's the typical nomenclature and lingo that we use within the industry. And it is the financial red zone because if you make a mistake within 5 to 7 years of before you go to full retirement or financial independence, it could derail your financial plan. It could delay it. It could cause a further delay than just a 25-minute delay as we're trying to get our kids to the destination for our trip. We're talking about way more important things than just getting kids to go on vacation. But what we are discussing is there are parallels. Like when I look at when I want to go somewhere with the family, there's a lot of pre-planning into then going into the trip. But what I ultimately care about is, do we get there timely, and are we going to be safe when we get there?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If
safe is key.
Safe is key. If I care too much about getting there early, and I start to speed and everything, I could get pulled over, or I could get in an accident, delaying it even further. Right?
Yeah.
So I want to get there timely, and that's what I use the GPS for. Right? But I also want to make sure that everyone in the vehicle and around me is safe.
Yep.
Right. And that takes me being alert, me being aware of the surroundings as I'm driving, to make sure that I'm making better informed decisions about where I want to go and how do I want to proceed. If I see someone driving reckless, I'm going to maybe slow down and get into another lane and be away from them. I want to get away from them as soon as possible. Same thing goes if I start seeing risk in the marketplace. I'm going to call my financial advisor. Hey, there's something I'm seeing over here that's causing me concern. Should I make any course corrections or adjustments? I'm feeling this way. I want to talk with you about it. Do you see these parallels, right, Andy? Like what we're looking to accomplish is making sure we're looking at all these different facets. Now, let's go into the last one. Now, as we do a summarization, how could we have done that in 20 minutes? There's so much that we could talk about. Let's explore the tools that people have access to then be able to make sure that they are on track, that they're going in the right direction towards their financial goals. What are some of those tools?
Well, you segmented so perfectly just in that story, right? I mean, everything's so about vision, and you got to create that mental image, but then you got to have the dashboard. You know, when you're driving, you're doing these things. You know, you're checking your vehicle. You know, your tire pressure. You know, all these little everyday things. You know, if your engine light comes on, you know, you got to deal with something maybe a little bit more important than others. And so what I really think about is what makes the Clear Picture Wealth program really as unique as it is that we've built in some of that dashboard already. Right now, this isn't designed for you, the client, to sit there and pay attention to the dashboard every day. You know, you just got to get in the car. You got so much more to do. You just need to know that when the lights come on and the advisor's saying lights are on, here's the three that I think we look at the most common when you're trying to say, what is a comfortable retirement or what does financial independence look like? And really, when it comes down to it, the three that we use the most often is portfolio reliance. And we're not going to go into grand detail because I know we've talked about this in the past, but portfolio reliance is so important. We'll highlight what that means quickly, because portfolio reliance then determines your withdrawal rate. You never want to be exposed to over withdrawing your money, just like you don't want to be romping on the gas the entire time. Your fuel efficiency goes way down. And what probably could happen is you could miss that next gas station you had planned along the way. Then you're pushing. Nobody wants to do that on retirement or on your trip. And then finally, putting into place all of those safeguards. You know, we call it the retirement independence ratio, which is really, really simply put, you have an idea of how much it's going to cost in retirement. Now, where do you go offset it? Now, Jason, if you're like me in my household, and what financial independence means to me is if I can rely on all of my investments that are passive and or protected, so security, pensions, annuities, to drive most or all of my living expenses, then all of my other, volatility, investments and those kind of factors don't matter as much. The world's always going to be bumpy. There's going to be potholes along the way. There's going to be traffic jams along the way. There's going to be weather along the way, your journey. But you got to be able to say, okay, at the end of the day, if I have enough fuel in the car, if I took my vehicle in for servicing, then I'm going to have as much confidence as I possibly can going into it. So I think those are the three that I want everybody to really, really pay attention to. And that's what our Clear Picture Financial program highlights and identifies as part of one of our optimal scores. So again, if you want to know what your retirement picture looks like, if you want to know how your retirement independence ratio is, your withdrawal projections, and your portfolio reliance rate, which drives our scores, you got to go to clearpicturefinancial.com. You got to click the link, schedule time. But those are my big three.
And I agree with you. These are the ones that we look at the most. Those tools, those calculations, we look at them with every single one of our clients to making sure that they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
So that was the insightful and always present Andy Merchant. I'm your host, Jason Noble. You just watched 20 minutes of clarity. Now do the next step. Go to clearpicturefinancial.com. Take a look at other podcasts we've done in the past, other videos, other content, right? Look at the blogs that we also write as well. But we want you to go down, enter in your information, and schedule a consultation with a specialist to see how we could put you on the right path. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We so appreciate you.